Oh, well, hello there. Welcome back once more to a ladder climb retrospective. This is the second time we've done this. People may not remember the first time. It didn't get very many views, but I had enough people ask me about it, enough people who were interested in my thoughts, that I figured we'd do it again, especially since today is the Patreon hangout. A lot of people don't know I do monthly hangouts with the patrons where we do like fun games and stuff like this and occasionally neat little activities. They're all up there in the chat and they're gonna help me rate these decks. If you missed the last time, we went through and we ranked all of the first year's worth of episodes from like best to worst, and that worked all right, but I figured this time, putting them on a tier list, A through D. All of the episodes from 2023, one episode a month, so that's 12 whole episodes, and we're just going to be rating them. There's no S on this, because I don't think any of my ladder climbs are, like, that great that they're, like, a head above the rest, like, better than perfect. It's like, at best, they're adequate, like, they did what they set out to do. And likewise, I don't think we need an F tier. There's none of these that, like, failed, that were, like, just horrible videos. I think some are like maybe a little disappointing. They maybe belong in D tier. But yeah, that's the general gist of the channel. And we're going to be going by just sort of rating these on vibes, right? There's not like a super complex scale. It's just how entertaining it was, how fun of an episode what it was. Did it turn out well? And in addition to giving my own opinion, we're also going to be having polls for all the patrons in chat. They're going to be helping me decide where these belong. And if you missed the first episode, the way we rate these, we're going to start by looking at the beginning, kind of checking out the editing. If you don't know, even though most of the episodes are edited by outside editors that I hire, I do the intros myself. And by looking at them, it's kind of a good way to gauge like how well the channel is doing and how much I've evolved as a creator. Because I feel like every episode I learn just a little bit more, and the intros get more elaborate, more involved as I get more technical skill and also more time to work on the intros. And then we're going to skip to the end, look at the results of how the deck did, just like how well it performed, how many variants it took, if there's any like interesting things I remember, because a lot of these episodes I don't even remember like a year down the road. We'll check out the number one comment, see what the top comment has to say, and then we'll have the little poll with chat. We'll figure out where we're going to place these. Alright, so we got a lot of episodes to go through, so let's just go ahead and jump into this, starting with the first episode, which was the Predaplant ones. Let me pull that up here real quick. We got So I Tried to Climb the Ladder with Predaplants, just a very common title. Some of the titles I switch up a little bit, but this one's very basic. And this was the January episode. Let's check out this intro, shall we? Diamond Tier 1 is the it is good to know. I remember I looked back at the first retrospective to just get an idea. And I guess it's worth real briefly reminding everyone how we started this series. Like, the very first intro. The competitive ladder on Master Duel currently has 4 separate ranks. Just, I'm not on screen, audio's kind of bad, starting with blurry visuals. The green screen, my chair is like down here, because this is where I sit naturally when I'm doing work. I didn't even think to like raise it. So all you could see is my shoulders, the framing's awful, and you can go watch that other episode to see the evolution of there. But look at this now. I've got a very distinctive looking shirt. I still haven't trimmed my beard or anything, but just that very little like rising up out of the ground, growing like a plant, although the sound is like a huge slab sliding across stone. Diamond Tier 1 is the highest rank on Master Duel's competitive ladder, and with the right deck and a bit of luck, just about anyone can reach that goal. That was a little tricky. I like being able to make the thing move around. But what if you don't use the right deck? Oh, was that a whip crack I heard? What if you play a plant-based alternative? How far could you get? I'm Hardleg Joe, if you didn't know. I got the if in, and I had the whip crack earlier, but I didn't do the, like, if and you didn't know. It's weird now that that's, like, such a concrete part of my, my introduction, but even here, like, a year into Ladder Climb, I did also, this frame I happened to pause on, not the most flattering one. And that's exactly what I do. Got another snap crack. Each month, my patrons pick a different deck, and I see how far I can push it up the Master Duel Ladder. Oh, I actually pushed it. This month's deck is Predaplants. Not only that, but their playstyle is flexible enough that you can mix them with other fusion-based archetypes, like, let's say, Branded, perhaps? Vine boom sound effect. Diamond? Will we need to cross-pollinate our plants with one of Master Duel's strongest decks in order to survive? Or will we be able to get there off the back of pure Predator power? You'll have to watch to find out. Yeah, definitely not a bad intro. You know, we got some cool, like, editing stuff going on. Still not the most dynamic, just cards kind of flying around. And it felt like it lasted forever. Maybe it was just me, but I felt like I was really rambling, even though it was only a minute and a half. That's kind of what you want to aim for. I guess that's also worth reiterating, just for people who are interested in behind-the-scenes stuff. The reason I spend so much time on the intro is because there's this bit of, like, I guess it's folk knowledge. I think I heard it from an official source somewhere, but I couldn't tell you where. Talking about how most people decide if they're going to watch a YouTube video in the first, like, 30 seconds. It doesn't matter how long that video is, if you can hook them in the first 30 seconds, then they're more likely to watch. And you'll see that from a lot of other channels, too. They'll go really, like, ham, making the intro super exciting, even if it's just a Let's Play for like 40 minutes. And that's essentially what this is spending like the first minute doing something really technical, and then the rest is just me playing the game. And how well did this do? I remember enjoying Predaplants. I thought this was like a fun archetype, one of my more favorite fusion archetypes, but I don't think I could tell you like a single thing that happened in this episode. I'm curious, chat, I guess before we look any further, how would you rate this episode, just going off your memory, and do you remember anything unique about it? While they're typing that, let's just head to the ending here. Diamond 5, what was the highest? Okay, so we made it to Diamond 5, and Diamond was the highest rank. There was no Master. So this is the equivalent nowadays of making it into Master 5. People remember, yeah, attack for 10 billion. I do seem to recall getting a whole bunch of Preda counters on something. Alright, not bad. 136 duels, and we won about 60%. You know, that's about standard. Nothing especially special about this. This was edited by Jules, thanks to her. She's no longer editing, at least not for me. I think she cut it back significantly to work on real-life stuff. But she did some good work while she was here. What's the top comment? Fun animal fact. The animal Ambulades is based not on a dinosaur or a reptile, but a primitive whale. I like how the entire theory of Predaplanted is maybe they'll waste Ash on something other than the branded fusion. And apparently a 7k Tripathyvern and a limiter removal. And what's this list? Yeah, we ended up just kind of playing a branded Predaplant. So, you know, still clearly a Predaplant build, but relying on brand. Remember when branded fusion was at 3? You would have thought that cutting it would have made the deck significantly weaker, but I think the other copies of branded fusion were only holding them back. Alright, so looking at the patron poll, it looks like about 55% of people are putting it into B tier. We got another 35 putting it into C tier. A couple people in A, a couple people thought it was high. But yeah, I think I'm going to agree. I might even put it a little lower because again, I have no memories of it. Chat might think it's a little bit higher, but I think my own score weighed in with the other 35% of people. It's, you know, it's either high C or low B, and I'm going to put it in C tier for now. You know, it did what it needed to do, but it clearly didn't leave much of an impact on people. Fans of the channel aren't exactly going back and checking this out again. Which is fine, you know, not every episode's gonna be a banger. Every once in a while, I gotta put out a C or something like that. We got a couple people in chat like, I like Predaplants. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a hassle. It wasn't annoying or anything. We got to play Branded. Branded's kind of fun in a way. Either way, let's go on to the next one, which is Libromancer.
Yes, Diamond Tier 1 is the highest rank on Master Duel's competitive ladder. And with the right deck and a bit of luck, just about anyone can achieve that goal.
That book landed on my foot. That was not scripted, by the way. Fun fact, the book didn't actually land on my foot, but when it hit there and kind of ruined the take, I was like, maybe I could think of something funny. I'm not sure if it landed on my foot is necessarily funny, but, you know, you could see a clear progression, like I got a background. Probably just taken from like Google or something. I try to use copyright-free images, so I'm sure it is, but I don't know where it is. And it's good old House of Leaves. Great book. I read that on the Literature Channel, like twice. Once with MBT. Check that out sometime.
Yes, mazes. Diamond
There are a lot of
Tier 1 is
mazes in
the highest
there.
rank on Master Duel's competitive ladder. I'm Hardleg Joe, if you didn't know, and that's
Still no if in whip crack.
exactly what I do.
I got the whip crack on exactly. I don't know when that became a thing. Yeah, I just will say, like, the visuals are good, but there's a severe lack of, like, sound effects.
It's underestimated. But at their core beats
Yeah, just like, no explosion, no nothing. A fire starter, have a fire sound effect maybe.
the fiery heart of a champion.
Not bad, not bad. Let's look real quick. So I tried to get Libromancer into Diamond. Diamond was still, this was edited by Civet. Good guy, also does not edit for the channel anymore, focusing on his own channel. He does really good work though, I'd love to have him edit again. Damn fine editor. What's the stats on here?
Now that it's the end of the episode.
I just got to see the hashtag ban Maxi. Yeah, that is one thing that I remember about this. Is, because Libromancer in particular, I mean, it's a ritual deck where every card is like, special summon this from your hand, and if you special summon it, search. You can't get the searches on normal summon. And, you know, because you're a ritual, like, even making any of your boss monsters is inherently going to be a special summon. So there's really just no way to play around Maxi. Like, if they Maxi you, you're just dead. Which is to be kind of expected from a TCG archetype. The TCG had a habit of building these cards for the TCG, and just not paying attention to the fact that Maxi was available in the OCG or Master Duel or whatever. You know, I guess, again, this is the equivalent of making it into Master 4 now, like you barely made it up into the final ranks or whatever. Definitely would have liked to see this go higher, but just not a very good deck. Although, I remember it being fun. Libromancers was like one of my favorite, like, ritual decks. You could just do so much neat stuff. Although I guess at the end of the day, it really is just kind of like a combo deck. Like there's nothing super exciting going on. 175. I forget how many was in the Predaplant, but that feels like a lot more. Play significantly more duels this time. 151%, so just barely over 50. That should let you know how difficult it was. It's kind of a surprise with how difficult it was that my memories of this are like losing to Maxi, but having a really good, fun time despite that. I really have fond memories of Libromancer. Although again, I still can't think of like any specific moments or anything like that. I wonder what the top comment says. Best part of Fireburst is it doesn't trigger the final blow warning, so you get a jump scare. Yeah, they have the one ritual that does like double battle damage. So they think they're not taking that much, and then it's like, oh no, oh, you taking all the damage. This fellow's voice is so consistent in pitch, volume, and speed that I can't help but fall asleep to it, like a child being lullabied by his caring grandmother in a cold winter's night. I'm glad people... I mean, if you enjoy having my videos put you to sleep, like, that's fine. There's a lot of people I watch their videos just fall asleep. I think that might be part of the success. You get the 4-hour-long videos and people are like, oh, thank the Lord. I could put this on, not have to worry about changing. This felt like a shonen anime. First we get wrecked by big evil guys until we evolve, adapt, gain new powers, and climb to the top. Except we didn't climb to the top. We got barely into Diamond. Alright, so now that you've had a little refresher, chat, where would you place Libromancers? How do you remember this episode? A little bit higher than me? A little bit lower, maybe? Alright, looks like this time chat is going 58% B, so slightly closer to B than last time, and I think I agree with that. Adding in my weighted thing, I would also put it at around a B. You know, I have fonder memories of it. It's just not, like, amazing or anything. There's no, like, cool, epic moments. It's just like, oh yeah, that deck. That was a fun deck. Well, maybe I shouldn't play that deck again. It got some new support, but the new support didn't really help it. Alright, moving on, we have Labrynth, which I remember being almost, like, kind of controversial at the time, because it was the closest thing to meta I had played on the series. Like, this was before transaction rollback, before even, like, the second wave of support. We only had the original, like, lady. We didn't have the other one that special summons from the hand. We didn't have big welcome Labrynth. So at the time, this was considered kind of like a floodgatey deck. People didn't really like it as much. But we're like, oh yeah, we'll go ahead. We'll try out something a little bit more exciting than usual, you know, go a little bit harder, faster. I'm curious to see what I did for the intro. Something with mazes or maids?
Diamond.
Why do I come in like a speeding car? I mean, it's a good effect. I think there's like some dust and stuff that gets kicked up. Yeah.
Diamond tier.
I've got like that pretty good emotion and everything. It has nothing to do with Labrynth. It's just sort of like, you know, this would be a fun thing to do. Was it supposed to be a speed run? Yeah, maybe. You'll notice this is one of the ones where the title is different. It's how easy is it to get to Diamond 1 with Labrynth. It's not a matter of I tried, it's not a matter of they made me climb, it's just like, oh, it's already a foregone conclusion that you can get into Diamond 1. We're just asking how fast, how easy is it really? And I think I remember coming into this saying it was going to be really easy. I don't know, let's see. Check out the rest of the intro.
One is the highest rank on Master Duel's competitive ladder, and with the right deck and a bit of luck, just a...
Sparkles! Also, again, it's a short thing. It's something that, like, I think only I would notice. But, like, it's one of those things where, like, I felt really accomplished when I figured this out. Because you'll notice that, like, when this comes in, it's clearly, like, on the layer behind my hand. You know, so you can see the finger wiggles. But I wanted to have this, like, throw it and have it go on the other side of me.
Bit of luck, just about it.
So, like, when I throw it, it moves forward in the layers. Which is not super difficult, but it took me, like, a surprising long time to figure out how to do that right.
Just about anyone can achieve that goal. I'm Hardleg Joe, if'n you didn't...
Oh! I did it! You did the if'n with the whip crack and everything! The question is, will that stay? I remember last time there was something we were looking for, and like I did it once, I think it was saying if'n, and then didn't do it for like several episodes and came back.
Each month my patrons pick a different archetype, and I try my best to push it up the Master Duel Ladder.
It's also, we got the like individual movements of the things, and then like doing the spinny as they go up. It's not great animation, but I'm like trying.
These lovely ladies and pieces of sentient furniture all have effects that trigger when any normal trap removes monsters from the field, which means they have synergy with hundreds of traps from across Yu-Gi-Oh's history.
I remember it took me an inordinately long time to like make this background sheet, because I was going through YGO Pro and finding all the cards that actually could trigger the Labrynth, because I didn't want to show cards in the background that weren't actually relevant to the theme. So everything here is actually something that does remove a monster, and then I like organized them on a grid in Photoshop and made this. I didn't need to, I could have just had any trap scrolling, I don't think anyone cared but me. But that's sometimes when you spend like, you know, 2 days working on like a 1-minute intro, you know, you get kind of caught in on all these little details. What's the card after Witch's Strike? It's like Ledger, something's Ledger Book or something. It's banish 2 monsters, your opponent gains like 1,000 life points for each, and then they return. So yeah, we went into this being like, you know, how fast could we make it? We can easily get there. And then I remember, embarrassingly, I only made it to Diamond 2. I couldn't make it all the way to Diamond 1. And it wasn't for lack of trying. If you check out the VOD channel, I actually did a 12-hour stream because I was in Diamond 2, and I'm like, all I gotta do is get lucky and get on the rank ups. I just gotta rank up. And for 12 hours, we kept going up to knocking on the door to Diamond 1, getting knocked back down, losing a bunch of things, not quite getting knocked back into Diamond 3, but not able to get into Diamond 1. And eventually it was like 7 o'clock in the morning, and people were like, Joe, you gotta call it. And so that ended up kind of twisting this, like, how easy is it to get to Diamond 1 with Labrynth? Turns out it's not easy at all. This was actually kind of the start of the arc I had, where I've played a couple, I don't think I've played meta decks while they were popular before. Back in the age of what a deck, I would always wait until, like, a deck had been banned a bunch, and then I would try to play it. But I always kind of assumed that winning with a meta deck would be a lot easier. And that's clearly not the case. And this was like kind of my first wake-up call, because I was like, yeah, I can get to like Diamond 3 with Ojamas or whatever. Surely I can get to Diamond 1 with a deck like Labrynth. And then I couldn't, after spending so much extra time with it. Not only could I not get into Diamond 1, but I couldn't do it using 2 Skill Drain, and 2 Rivalry, and 2 fucking, like, I have all these viruses. Like, I was trying so hard to just be like the cheesy, you cannot play, sitting on floodgates strategy, and it still didn't work out. Although, wow, it is just crazy seeing one of these old lists where it's like back before you had all the other maids and Big Welcome and everything. You are just playing, like, Card of Demise, Pot of Duality, Pot of Extract, just all the draw power, a bunch of traps, very few maids. Hell of a thing. 219 duels, that's so many more than the previous episodes. And only a 56% win rate. It's just stun, yeah, 3 Sphere Mode. I forget what the meta was at the time, maybe Sprite. Sphere Mode's pretty good against Sprite. That's what I showed at the start. Haven't been this hyped for a 3-hour-long Hardleg video since the last 3-hour-long Hardleg video. Let's see how much of this video is from the final 12-hour grind. Just saw the part where Joe realized the hidden effect of Lord of Heavenly Prison. No one knows it also protects set monsters. Makes him pretty good for a deck like Crawlers. Yeah, this one did pretty well despite everything. I know there are a couple people who were like, you know, I don't really like this, but, you know, the views didn't reflect that. And I think that kind of set up for an episode that's coming down the line. But yeah, it is an interesting one. I have frustrating memories of trying to play the, like the Water Kairushin deck that's also basically just like sitting on a whole bunch of floodgates and everything. Like, that was super frustrating, even though it made it to the end. This I remember being fun, and we did try out a whole bunch of different builds, including, like, a furniture build that played Backjack and a whole bunch of other different stuff. So I think my memories overall are still pretty positive. Like, when they came out with the new support, I was kind of like, yeah, hopefully the patrons will pick it again. But Labrynth just kind of has that reputation now. So many people have lost against it and have frustrating times against it. And they kind of have this conception of what a Labrynth duel is like, because that's what it's like for them. And they don't quite understand that, like, when you're playing it, it can be a lot more intense, especially when people know how to fight against you. I think it gets a bad rep. I think I like Labrynth quite a bit. But it also isn't, like, my favorite deck of all time. Obviously, Paleo's, if I have to pick a trap deck, that's much better. But let's go ahead and put up the poll. How do you feel about this, chat? What do you remember of the Labrynth ladder climb? Did you have a fun time? Was that also, like, going downhill where it's like, Hardleg's playing, like, good decks now? What's the point in playing a good deck on this show? Alright, looks like 50% of chat has put this into A tier, with another 25 in B and another 25 in C. I was kind of teetering back and forth. I'm like, maybe it's high B, maybe it's A. I don't think I can put it in A tier. I think it's just not, like, exciting enough to really do there, and only half of chat agrees. But we're going to put it in high B tier. We're actually going to have the order, like, this is definitely higher than Libromancers. I think it just doesn't quite make it to A. I don't know, maybe we might change it by the end of this episode. We'll see. Alright, next up, we got an interesting one. Crystal Beasts. Which, I gotta say, you know, you could tell that people saw the Labrynth deck, and they're like, okay, you got to play something kind of good. Get back to the jank monkey. We wanna see the Crystal Beast. Give us some anime slop. And I mean, to be fair, at the time, Neshi was really grinding through Crystal Beasts. If you don't know Neshi, I think he quit playing Yu-Gi-Oh, but he basically streamed for a while and was just a Crystal Beast one-trick. Like, he just played that deck, but man, he found some good combos and stuff with them. And this is also, I really liked that, like, I got this for the intro, being able to do the unicorn. It's kind of a shame, though. It's, like, almost impossible to see out of. It's very uncomfortable. Didn't like wearing it. So it's one of those early examples of, like, I bought a prop for the episode and didn't use it in the episode. I only ever wore it in the intro. But this is where you can really kind of see that. I didn't even think about that because it has become kind of a staple these days, where every episode I get some kind of prop to, like, help make it a little bit special. And I think it started with this. Also, I'm really proud of this intro.
Get out of here. Horses. Diamond tier 1.
Just go into it. Unfortunately, people didn't think it was as funny as I did. I think it helps that, like, I know that's me. Some people are like, I don't like that you're punching people. I don't like that you're punching horses or whatever. But yeah, this was my first attempt to, like, double green screen. Had to go in and, like, interact with myself. I think I had to mask out the other chair when I was doing this.
It's Crystal. Get out of here.
Oh no, I just had it tilt down.
Each month, my patrons pick a different archetype, and I do my best to push it up the Master Duel.
Again, not very great animation, kind of sloppy if we're being honest. The spins don't really time up with, like, what my fingers were doing, but, like, I tried. And I put the, like, little whooshes in there.
Archetype, and I do my best to push it up the Master Duel Ladder. You'll have to watch to find out. Hold!
Ooh, that was kind of neat. I, like, had the background move differently than the me in the foreground. Another one edited by Sidit. He did a really good... There's one thing I remember specifically. Yeah, where... So, Tearlament format started halfway through this episode. And I was like... I think I told in the notes, I was like, Civet, add in just, like, a Terminator, like, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Just that ominous, music sting to make it clear. And he went a little above and beyond.
If you are getting this message, the year is 2023. Konami just added Tearlaments to Master Duel. The ranked ladder is in a state worse than we've ever seen before. Turns take 20 minutes because of the game's terrible interface, combined with a deck that never stops playing. Whatever you do, you must avoid this future.
I was like, put in a little Terminator sting, and he, like, edited in the intro to Terminator with all that, and that's him doing the voiceover too. The fucking Toad, yeah, the Toad got banned. How did we end up doing on this? I remember that this actually went surprisingly well. I was super afraid when Tearlaments came out, but Crystal Beasts have an inherent way to search any field spell, and you can use that to get Necro Valley. They can also easily play Shifter, and I think it was at 3 at this time. And plus, Tearlament is such a difficult and skill-testing deck that when it first came out, people were absolutely awful at it. They had no idea what they were doing, and as someone who, like, barely paid attention and kind of knew what the deck was doing, I had, like, a pretty big advantage going up against them. Which is why I made, again, you know, this is the equivalent today of going into Master 4, which is not, like, super high, but for a deck like Crystal Beast, that's pretty damn high. Played 115 duels, had a 55% win rate. I've played better decks that had worse win rates. And yeah, you can see we're just playing Shifter, we're playing DD Crow, we're playing Necro Valley, we're playing Abyss Dweller. Like, we are just prepared for the meta. Oh, I had a pinned thing to check out Neshi, who is not playing anymore, but that's, you know, at least, again, one of the reasons I kind of like this show and like going through it is because it's kind of a good way to keep track of, like, history. Neshi may be gone, but his memory lives on in this pinned comment forever. Playing that called by into the imperm column against a guy called Skill Issue is definitely something. I don't remember that. 12 out of 10 opening, immediate giggle from me. Spend 15 minutes board building, quick synchro a King Calamity that misses the timing, lose to Crystal Beasts. It's peak Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't remember that. I feel like I should remember that. He's very funny, though. And I do remember some pretty funny things that happened in this. We OTK'd quite a few people. We made some people taste the rainbow. We played, like, Verte with Rainbow Neos in here. Crystal Beast is definitely not my favorite archetype or anything. Like, they're not super complicated. But this is definitely an episode where I have memories of doing, like, cool, fun, unique shit with them. I think I even had a build, like, halfway through here where I played the Dark Crystal Beasts. That was fun. We were getting to the point where I had enough gems I could afford to experiment. You could see the SR points starting to, like, oh, I just have 1,000 now. Earlier on, it's like I'm constantly having to decraft stuff and find new ways to get SRs. But that brings us to the question, chat. Where do you place the Crystal Beast ladder climb? Alright, it looks like chat is pretty overwhelming this time with 67% in A tier. And, you know, coming into this, I didn't really think that this would be all that high. I was kind of going like, yeah, it's a B, maybe a C. But after getting a refresher, I'm realizing how many duels I remember from this, how many different builds, how many fun little tidbits there were in the episode, whether it's the punching myself as the unicorn, or Civit's little, like, Tearlament thing. And I think at the end of the day, yeah, this is probably like an A-tier episode. I think some of it's also, this was slow to grow. I remember after the Labrynth episode, I was like, oh, if the Labrynth episode did well, this will do really well, because Crystal Beasts are like an old fan favorite anime archetype, and it really didn't perform very well at all. For the longest time, it was like one of the worst performing episodes. It's caught up by that now, I think. Yeah, it's at like 100,000 views, which is pretty high up there. But for a while, people just didn't appreciate it. I thought the thumbnail was really cool, too. But yeah, I think this is the first A tier. Probably not, like, high A tier, but it's definitely got better stuff than anything we've seen so far. Alright, and that brings us to, unequivocally, the worst episode of the series, I think. At least the worst performing, the one that caused the most anxiety. You know, if people were upset about me playing Labrynth, you can imagine how they felt with Tearlament. Labrynth was a good deck, it was a tiered deck, but it wasn't like the tier 0 deck. Tearlament is something that, like, people are annoyed by even now, and back then it was especially annoying. You know, it was up there as like, it was the thing. So many people were quitting Yu-Gi-Oh! They were saying it's over. And to be fair, I remember at this time being like, I'm not even sure I want to play them necessarily, but they do look really fun, they do look really skill testing, and most importantly, even if you wanted me to play Rogue, what Rogue deck can stand up against full power Tearlament? Like, no matter what I play, it either has to be, like, anti-meta, like I have to play exactly Exo Sister or Tearlament. There's not really a lot in between. I remember this was one of the few ones, people were asking me if I would try it out, and I actually went to the patrons and I was like, you know, it's at the end of the day, it's up to you, but this is the one I would like to play. This was my idea, and oh boy, did it not turn out very well. You could, to this day, this has 76,000, which is, it's pretty decent, but I mean, considering I only have like 60,000 subscribers, like the fact that after a year and a half, it's just barely broken out of my audience, should give you a hint. With everything else being up in the like 100,000 or so, this one lagged behind for a long time. And this one I remember didn't make a whole lot of money at first. Because I do actually share the ad revenue with the editors. Like whatever it makes after the first 2 weeks, they get a cut. And I remember with this episode, after 2 weeks came up, I was like, yeah, this is like shockingly low. I'm gonna let it ride for another week. And, you know, let it build up a little bit more, so hopefully you can get a little something. Because editing this was just like a slog. It's just Tearlament duel after Tearlament duel, so many mirror matches, so many long chains to resolve. I felt kind of bad that I spent so much time and then the episode just, like, didn't do very well. Also, the intro was not made by me. It was edited by Subat, who would go on to edit some ladder climbs. But I remember at the time, this episode caused me so much stress that I was like, I can't work on like an intro for it. I don't exactly know what I'm gonna do. Just, I had to turn it over to someone else. And I don't think it turned out very well. Subat did his best, but working with green screen footage is hard to do if you've never done it before. Let's go ahead and check out this intro though. We got bubbles, you know, it fits with the Tearlament.
Diamond Tier 1 is the highest rank on Master Duel's competitive ladder, and with the right deck and a bit of luck, just about anyone can reach that goal. You know, I say that every episode, and I'm not actually sure if it's true. I just assume it's true because I can get into low diamond with stuff like Crystal Beast and Libromancers. If those rogue decks can achieve that level of success, then surely the best deck in the format can make it to the top with ease. Right? So let's do it. Let's put this theory to the test. If I play the right deck, if I get a little lucky, will I reach Diamond 1 with ease? And if so, just how quick and easy will it be? Am I right to assume that the meta decks have it made? Or am I gonna have to change the opening to this show?
I changed the opening to the show. After this, I changed the opening to the show. Yeah, just like I've kind of been hinting at, this was really kind of like an eye-opening experience for me. It was the first time I played meta at the height of meta, and it broke me. Although, to be fair, I played Snake Eyes, and Snake Eyes was pretty easy to get into Master. Although that just kind of goes to show, like, one, Tearlament is much more skill testing than Snake Eyes. There's still stuff you gotta do in Snake Eyes, but once you get it. But also the Tearlament mirrors were so damn long. I remember getting to the end with this, and let's see how many duels we actually got here.
But anyway.
So I ended up going over on a whole bunch of streams, but the number of duels we did is still not higher than a lot of the previous episodes. Like, it's kind of on par, unlike the Labrynth episode where we went like 200 plus duels. This one was just like, you know, we had to spend so long on every duel because every Tearlament mirror match was just like 40 minutes long. The only reason I even got that many is because every duel that wasn't a Tearlament mirror match was like, I went first, I activated a Tearlament card, and if my opponent didn't have, like, Shifter, they surrendered. That was the thing, is like, every duel was either a mirror match, or it was against someone who was specifically countering me, or it was someone who surrendered as soon as they didn't get the thing they wanted. Mostly edited by Civit, done by Subad. Let's look at these comments here. Oh, it's my opponent's turn. I thought it was my turn for some reason. That's the most there you go, that's Tearlaments in a nutshell. I know Hardleg filmed this tier reasoning open while Kit Kalos held a gun to his head. Just want to say thanks for explaining the deck every time, even if it's something meta. I don't play Yu-Gi-Oh anymore, but I like watching the duels, and this is my favorite channel, so going through the cards helps keep me up to date on stuff. I try to do my best. I will say, as negatively as I'm talking about the episode, like, it didn't perform well, I don't think I performed well, like, I didn't get as far as I wanted, I still had a lot of fun playing Tier. Tearlament's still, like, a fun deck. Like, I really do think that, like, in a couple years, once Tearlament finally kind of fades away, you are going to see the kind of nostalgia for Tier format that people had for, like, Teledad format. Like, the mirror matches are just so fun, so interesting. It's almost like playing, like, an entirely different game. Like, I would like to play Tier again. I was kind of interested in putting Tier into the Paleozoic deck, just to, like, get a chance to do it again. Because it's such an interestingly designed deck. It's just, like, it's too far ahead. That and the Ishizu stuff. I sometimes wonder, like, how things would be so much different if they didn't release the Ishizu stuff anywhere near the Tier stuff. Because when it first came out, a lot of people were like, oh, Tearlament's alright, but Sprite is better. And then the Ishizu stuff came out, and they're like, whoa, this is Tier 0 good. I think we had the Tearlament stuff come out in the TCG before the Ishizu stuff, and people took the knowledge from the OCG and built it, and they're like, oh no. Sprite doesn't hold a candle to Tearlament. Even without the Ishizu stuff, it's still Tier 0. It's just crazy. And yeah, it looks like chat is saying we got 38% C with the most, another 29 on D tier. And yeah, I think despite how I feel about this deck as an episode of Ladder Climb, I have to put this one in D tier. This is one of the few that I'm like, I'm not satisfied with how it came out, especially with the intro. Not only did I not edit the intro, and it kind of shows because there's just not as much going on there, but it was definitely way too long. It had way too much pathos. And again, it just shows, like, I got way too into it. I went into this month so full of, like, salt and vinegar, like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna prove I'm the best player who ever lived, and got completely gobsmacked trying to play meta for the first time. And so, by the time it came to make the intro, I was like, I have to somehow make this seem reasonable. So I did this overly long explanation, and it just turned out sappy and weird, and I didn't really like it. Like, it was a good experience. I think the channel is better for having done this, but that doesn't mean that this was a fun, like, example. This is one of those few examples where, like, you learn so much from failure. You learn from defeat. I got defeated by the Tearlament episode, but I think I came back with a vengeance, because the next one up was Ghoti. And we all know how I feel about Ghoti, right? I know with the Ghoti intro, I did some stuff that was actually thematically relevant. We had talked about before, I mean, I guess I had bubbles during the Tearlament episode, but on all the ones we looked at prior, you know, I would just, like, speed in like a car or rise out of the ground. And this one, like, no, I'm teleporting like a space fish.
Whoa!
Interdimensional.
Master 1 is the highest rank on Master Duel's competitive ladder, and getting there is not easy. Each month my patrons pick a different archetype, and I do my best to push it up the Master Duel ladder.
That was smooth. I liked that one. I think now that I'm looking at it, this was probably the first of what I would consider, like, the modern style Hardleg intros. There's still a little bit of cheesiness there, but I've got it where, like, almost every, like, 5 seconds there's something happening, some kind of movement. I'm keeping it brisk.
You'll have to watch to find out. Alright, here we are.
And just have me spinning off in one direction and the card in another. Your shirt is green screen too, yeah. It's one of those things people like. I get a lot of people telling me they really like this look, and I like this look too, but it makes editing such a hassle. It's so much more difficult to get this to, like, look right than it is if I'm just wearing, like, a red shirt or something like that. Who edited this one? No, we still had Civet going. I thought he surrendered after the Tearlament episode. But no, we came back, so he at least got a little bit of something. Let's go to the episode stats. So I was like, oh yeah, Diamond 2, like, that's pretty good. Except they added Master. I guess I should have known because it's, like, in the thumbnail and everything. So I didn't quite get into Master. We had to start a little bit lower. And of course, we're still in the middle of tier format. So the fact that I got anywhere close to that is pretty good. This would be the equivalent of, like, starting in Platinum and getting up to Diamond 2. I guess that's exactly what we did. I got 142 duels, 57 win rate. Not bad. Not bad at all. Still a little bit higher. I mean, every time you see, like, that 51%, it's like, ooh, you know that was rough. But this time, like, yeah, we got some pretty good wins. Oh yeah, we got to play Runic Ghoti, which was a really fun build. I think that was my favorite part about playing this deck, is that there was just so many different versions. We had one that was, like, all monsters with Sekka's Light. We had one putting in, like, other fish and everything. Just very, very neat. Lots of neat stuff you could do. What are the comments looking like? I pinned one. Give a man a fish and you'll feed him for a day. Give him a Ghoti and he'll synchro summon for a lifetime. Wise words if ever there were. I'll remember you all in therapy is the catchphrase of this climb. Taken from Plankton on an episode of SpongeBob, if you didn't know. I say that a lot these days. I can't even express how fun it was to see the fun and joy Joe got out of this ladder climb. A priceless episode! One of the best of all time! Well, I mean, the comments said it, not me, but... Chad, what do you think? Best episode because he liked the deck. Not only did I enjoy the deck, it's, like, clearly one of my favorites, but unlike something like Tearlament, where I really liked the deck, but the episode didn't turn out really well, I feel like the Ghoti episode has a whole bunch of interesting duels. We got to play, like... I don't remember any, like, specific upsets, but I have memories of, like, banishing people to another dimension, of synchro summoning where they didn't expect it, of playing on my opponent's turn a whole lot, activating runic stuff, top-decking late game and coming back, thinking everything was gone, and then like, oh, I still have a fish that's banished and it comes back, and I top-deck a 4, so I go into Orion Post. Okay, yeah, this seems pretty obvious. It's, Chat is also saying 88% A tier, 8% B tier. There's one person who doesn't like it very much. But yeah, I think this is probably my favorite episode of the season so far. Might even be one of the top of the whole thing, although we'll have to see. Let's go and continue on. Next time we've got Springans. This one I definitely remember the intro. This is where I was like, not just doing something that was thematic, but like putting a whole lot of effort into being thematic.
Master 1 is the highest rank on Master Duel's competitive ladder, and getting there is not easy.
Just like firing myself out of a cannon. It was weird. I remember, to me, it was obvious that like, oh, I went off this side of the screen and I would come back from this side. But I remember showing this to my parents because they like to see the intros or whatever. And they were like, how come you went left and then came right? And I realized it's one of those like video game things that like people from my generation would understand that. But if you're older, it doesn't make any sense that like the screen would wrap around.
Only the most strategic duelist with the strongest cards can climb all the way to the top.
Honestly, I'm doing stuff in this intro that I think surpasses stuff I do now. Granted, I'm not sure if it adds anything or if you can even hear it, but there's like a whole bunch of extra sound effects that like I wouldn't use in the modern day. When I'm just talking normally, you know, I'm saying it's strategic and you can hear computers beeping. I'm saying it's strong and I've got like a pitch-shifted voice going, ooh. Let's see if you can listen closely and see if you can hear it.
Only the most strategic duelist with the strongest cards can climb all the way to the top.
Also, same shirt. There it was, yep. I mean, I only got like, I think 6 shirts, so you're gonna see the same shirt over. I just bought 2 new ones this year. But I just have a small selection of them.
We're playing Springans, an archetype of desert marauders who weave their ships in and out of danger.
Yeah, just all these little things. The ship is weaving back and forth with my hands. The Springans brother part, I know this took me like so long to do, but I was like so happy when I did it.
And use their mechanical crew as missiles to dome the opponent. Though this archetype has historically been too slow to really compete, will that be enough to rocket the Springans into Master? You'll have to watch to find out.
I remember I wanted to add like a rocket for that part too, but I spent so long on all the other parts of it that I was like running behind schedule. I was like, okay, I've done enough. I need to just like get back to it. I can't spend like 4 days on this fucking intro. But yeah, it's weird too because I think these days, if I wanted to do the exact same thing, I would be able to do it so much faster because I've just learned all these little shortcuts. Like if you know anything about editing, it's probably not all that complex or whatever. But at the time, like figuring it all out was like a big challenge and I felt really accomplished that I had done it. How did this episode end up doing? Looks like we made it to Master 5. So we made it into Master finally.
In the end, we made it to Master 5, and you know what? We probably could have gone even further. Not only does this deck have one of the best win rates of the entire Ladder Climb series, but it accomplished that with the fewest changes required to the deck.
Huh. I don't remember Springans being that good. Oh wow, yeah. 61% win rate, that's pretty dang high. And only about 2 builds. It's weird to think that this like shattered some records for the series and I don't even remember it. I'm not sure if I've done less builds since then. I know one of the recent decks we only had like 3 or something like that, but making it in just 2.5 is pretty dang low. But yeah, this deck kind of like builds itself in the sense that like there's not really a whole lot of room to change things up. You just kind of like play the tech cards, and the tech cards on Master Duel are kind of played out. I mean, I do remember this deck. I don't have any bad memories of it. I just don't remember it doing anything like special. I think it might have gotten mixed up a little bit with my Earth Machine memories, because that played Sargass too. I mean, Tally Ho was fun. Who edited this one? This was Zubat. Zubat's first edit. They did a pretty good job. Oh yeah, it beat Rongo. I remember that. You can use Tally Ho's Grave Effect. That was a fun one. You've heard of Mill 8, Phil Great. Now it's time for Detach 3, Fly Free. Awesome to see the evolution of Joe's intros. Also suggestions, a year-end review where Joe goes over the decks that work best, his favorite, least favorite, and new additions to the deck. Well, Akuma Soul, I think that's a good suggestion. I think we'll end up doing that. This was in July, right? So the first one was filmed in August, so I think this comment must have been, like, what inspired me. The tally-ho on the Rongo, though, yeah. Yeah, this is a pretty good one. Not a very good thumbnail. And we're back to So I Tried to Climb. I remember with Tearlaments, I didn't even want to let people know I was playing Tearlament. I didn't talk about this during that one. The attitude towards Tearlament was so bad at the time that I didn't want to put them in the title because I thought people wouldn't tune in. So I changed it to, I tried to speedrun Master Duel, and then I had a couple comments from people who were upset that it wasn't actually a speedrun. Oh yeah, and there's the first year-end review where I did this last time, was right after this. Although it didn't cover this episode, obviously, we just did the first year. Alright, looks like chat has voted B tier with 59%. And you know, because I don't remember it so well, I think I'm gonna have to put it in B tier as well. Maybe even low B tier. It's weird because, again, on paper, the episode did really well. It seems like I enjoyed it. It seems like it performed pretty well. First deck to get into Master. Very few changes required. We do have that one, cool duel. Yeah, I guess it does go against Libro. I feel a little bad putting it above Libromancer because I like this deck so much more. But there's no denying that, as an episode, this was clearly better. And I guess it had better editing, too. I don't know, there are 41% of people are putting it in A tier. Yeah, you know what, we'll put it in high B tier. It's above these other ones, just because fan reaction and just because it represents so many things. Alright, and that brings us to Generraider. Things are about to get a little dire. This is another one I remember doing a lot with the intro. I remember my computer slowing down because I tried to do so much. Not because there were a bunch of little edits, but because,
Master 1 is the highest
trying to get
rung
4
on Master
versions of
Duel's
me at the same
competitive ladder.
time. Processing all the green screens and everything, a little tricky. But I wanted to summon Boss Joe and then have 4 Joe tokens. Plus this thing with the motion tracking.
Master 1 is the highest rung on Master Duel's competitive ladder, and getting there is not easy. Only the best duelist with the most consistent decks can climb all the way to the top.
But what if you don't use a consistent deck? I love those little jump cuts. And yeah, originally I wasn't going to, knock the things away. But again, I was having so much trouble getting my computer to run with 5 of me on the screen at the same time. It was starting to slow down, so I was like, I have to find a way to knock these off the screen.
What if you play an archetype full of high-level bricks that rely on a field spell?
Also, that for how cheesy and not good that effect works, doing that was actually insanely difficult. Because, I mean, you could see it as I do it frame by frame. In order to do this, I had to mask around my hand at every frame of this so that it was behind this hand, but in front of this hand. And I think I cut out the hand. There's 2 of me on screen. It was a very complicated thing, and it wasn't worth it just to catch a bunch of bricks and drop it.
Its playstyle centers around this, the Generraider boss stage. As soon as...
I am happy also with this shot. Specifically, if you didn't know, because I'm doing the Levitin pose. The boss monster, the Ixie, is doing this with the boss stage symbol floating over his hand.
Their newest round of support aims to fix these problems.
Oh yeah, there it is. Granted, I probably should have put the arm down closer here instead of raising it up, but you could see what I was going for, right? Okay, who edited this one? Ordinary. I remember them. I think this is the only one they did. Good editor. They took too long. I think this was, they were a week late or something like that in trying to get it done. Which I don't blame at all, trying to do this for the first time. these days I have editors like learn to get used to me and my cadences and everything, doing like let's learns first. Trying to start out on this with like a 4-hour long fucking video, like it's crazy. They did a really good job though. This is I believe the second highest ladder climb on the entire channel. Yeah. The second highest ladder climb and the fourth biggest video on the entire channel. It beat out fossils for some reason. No idea why. I didn't know generators were that popular, but, you know, it worked out pretty well. And, you know, I will say, this ended up being a really fun episode as well. This is one I went into where I was like, you know, I've played Generraider before. They're a neat thing, but they're kind of gimmicky. They're kind of one note. But the new support and all the little tech cards you can do with stuff like, Diviner of the Herald really brings it all together. The new Ixie is really fun. It does a lot of really unique stuff. You get to make a lot of interesting decisions. It's notable about this episode that I have memories of like being evenly matched and forced to end on a token, and they aren't upsetting. It's like I lost, but I lost in a funny way, and it was still entertaining. Like I have good memories about it.
In the end, we made it to Master 1, and it was probably the easiest climb so far.
It did shockingly well. Generraider is very powerful. And yeah, maybe that's why I don't remember the Springans one as well, because I went from like, this is our first deck to get into Master, to hitting Master 1, which we have not done on any of these episodes so far. Even before Master, like, I don't think we had a whole episode this year get to Diamond 1. So being able to get to, like, the final rank and actually hit it was, like, such an accomplishment. I think this might have stolen the thunder. Yeah, weird. It doesn't have as high of a win rate as Springans. Springans was actually higher, and yet this made it into Master 1. Weird how that works out. You know, when I started doing this, where I would keep all the statistics and everything, I thought it would, it'd be enlightening to see how things work, but it's only made me more confused as to how everything shakes out. It's like the number of duels, the win rate or whatever, doesn't seem to have any impact on the rating we get in the end. Also, I'm just now noticing, this is the first episode where I put the rank we got to at the end. And the reason I did that is because when we did the retrospective of the first year, I was frustrated that I couldn't go to the end screen and figure out what rank I was in, that I had to go back a little bit. So I decided from now on I would do that specifically to make this series easier to do. The retrospectives will now be easier from this point forward because we can just go to where the stats are and it'll tell us how far we made it. Let's look at the top comments, shall we? Oh yeah, the editor used a picture of Jormungandr. It was like some chibi art from someone on Twitter. I remember that was another thing where I was like, I don't usually use outside art on this that we can't source or whatever. I guess like Civet used Terminator, but I feel like everyone knows Terminator. It's like a big thing. I really don't like the idea of taking fan art from like Google or DeviantArt, just people posting it on Twitter and using that in the videos. I would want to get permission, and I feel like getting permission for all of that would be way too much of a hassle. So when they did it, I was like, we'll go ahead and keep it in, but I'm going to pin this to let people know this is where I got this exactly. Things can get pretty dire. I don't know if that was intentional, but I assume it was. It was. I like to, if not give shout-outs, then at least mention. If you don't know, Dyer is a former YugiTuber. I think she still has a channel, but she's mostly become an editor for YugiTubers at this point. But she's still like a voice in the community, and Generraider's her favorite deck. She's like the Generraider duelist. Anytime something comes out, she's the one who's like, this will be really good with Generraiders. So I had to give like a little bit of a shout-out. Every time I summon Jormungandr off Leviathan, I loved yelling, that's it! Get in the worm! 4 seconds, I already love the summoning of the 4 tokens. Yeah, this is a pretty good one. I think I like this one. Let's see what chat thinks. Let's put that poll up here. I think it's apparent, even without referencing the chat poll, that this is probably going to be an A tier. This is a really good episode. I enjoyed it. Other people clearly enjoyed it with how popular it is. And with 75%, it seems like there's no way I could put it lower. And I definitely think it's higher than the Crystal Beast episode. Really, the question for me is it better or worse than Ghoti? Because these are both like some of my favorite decks. I will say I think Generraider is officially my favorite Ixie deck, if you can call it that. I don't know, it's more of like a main deck that just happens to Ixie. But, you know, for the Ixie Festival, I went back to playing Generraider. I love playing Generraider. It's a very fun deck. But at the end of the day, I can't decide these based on just, like, what my favorite archetype is. I have to judge them as episodes. And I think as episodes, this one's probably better than the Ghoti episode. More fun moments, more unique editing, lots of interesting stuff in there, lots of fun duels. Even when I lost the duels, I was having fun. And of course, just the fact that we won so many and we got to go all the way up into Master 1. Just the little icing on top. Yeah, and just a note, this one was also so I tried to get Master rank with Generraider. Very simple. This next one changed it up a little bit because Vaylantz they have a fan base, but it's very small. They're really dedicated, but a lot of people don't even know that Vaylantz is a deck. You don't really encounter it on the ladder. So this was my first experiment with trying to make it a little bit more unique. So I tried to master Yu-Gi-Oh's most complicated deck. Just tried to sell it off the back of being very complicated. And I'm not sure if it is the most complicated. It's certainly up there. It's probably in like the top 10, right? Any pendulum deck is going to be tricky. This one I remember doing pretty well also. And I do like Vaylantz. They're fun in a complicated way, or complicated in a fun way. I will say, though, it is one of those decks where, like, if you go first and you do the thing and you don't get interrupted, you make an end board that's just, like, unfair. Like, your opponent cannot win. And I don't get a whole lot of satisfaction from that. Yes, there's satisfaction in building a board that has a bunch of, like, negates and disruptions, but only because then you get to have this back and forth where your opponent's trying to break your board and you're trying to stop them from breaking your board. When a deck is so powerful that they literally can't do anything, then there's like no fun to be had for you. And even if they do somehow break it, then it's not even fun then because it feels like they've cheated somehow. You're like, no. This board was supposed to be unfair. This board was supposed to be unbreakable. I'm not satisfied that you did a bunch of shit. I'm upset that you hit me with, like, Dark Ruler No More, evenly matched Lava Golem. But we did still have some fun stuff. We did get to make a Go Second deck, and this is another one where, like, I'm not sure if I've topped this intro. I just went way too far into making, like, custom assets for doing this.
Master 1 is the highest rung on Master Duel's competitive ladder, and getting there is not easy. But what if you play a needlessly complicated deck? One with combos so convoluted that even a spreadsheet isn't going to cut it.
Ooh, that's nice cut. Yeah, this one doesn't have as much going on because, again, I spent so much time, like, cutting out the thing and making the little Hardleg icon and stuff.
How far should you get?
Probably not a great use of my time.
I'm Joe, if you didn't know, and that's just the kind of thing I do. Each month, my patrons pick a different deck, and I see how far I can push it up the Master Duel
throwing
ladder.
it at the screen.
This month, we're playing Vaylantz, a pendulum-based art.
There's something that's fun. I wonder maybe in another life, if I had started earlier, if I would have been able to be an animator. Because I have a lot of fun just doing this little stuff where, like, yeah, clearly this isn't a card, it doesn't have any weight or whatever. But I liked kind of figuring out the puzzle of how can I throw this and use the proper sound effects and the proper motion to make it sound like it's hitting the side of the frame. And I feel like I did a pretty good job in that one.
Vaylantz, a pendulum-based archetype
themed
after turn-based strategy games. You'll have to watch to find out, so grab a snack and lean back, because we got a long road ahead of us. And into the back row I go.
All right, and into the back row I go. I think that was the first appearance of grab a snack and lean back, which is something I used infrequently, but has now kind of become like the sign-off for the end of the intro. And yeah, this one, I think compared to the last two, not nearly as intricate. I spent way too much time making assets for the beginning part of it. And also, I think I didn't really know what to do with, like, how do I show lockdowns or whatever. Not bad or anything, but nothing, like, to write home about yet. How are our final stats? Alright, we made it to Master 4, so, you know, we made it into Master. 142 duels, 53% win rate. Yeah, so really just, like, nothing special. It is interesting that I went, like, with the, like, of course this can make it to Master. It's just a matter of if we can master it. Like, no, I think even if you know what you're doing, you're still at the mercy of, like, hand traps. I'm not sure if I just did that for the purpose of, like, selling the intro, or if I really didn't know back then just how much of the game was, like, up to opening hands. I kind of figured that out a lot more, especially with the Snake Eyes. Playing Snake Eyes kind of makes you aware of the fact that, like, oh, if your opponent opens 2 disruptions and you only have 1 starter, you've won. I think that was always kind of true with a lot of different decks, but it wasn't as, like, obvious until I played that deck. Who edited this one? It was Zubat, because Zubat wanted to edit this. He was like, I love Vaylantz. Let me edit the Vaylantz episode, please. I will take off a month so I could do this one. He had a lot of fun with it, made it work pretty well. Vaylantz effects include slide to the left, slide to the right, crisscross, cha-cha real smooth. Doot, 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 doot. Yeah, I think I said that like 1,000 times during this ladder climb. Anytime I had to move something, I was just like, slide to the left. And there are a whole bunch of these comments that are like, how come Joe keeps saying that when he's sliding to the right? Like, I'm just quoting the song. I don't actually pay attention to the direction. I love how in nearly every duel you can actively see your opponent pausing for a solid 20 seconds as they read the card and go, what the fuck is this? The best part of chess is when your opponent activates Gamma to block your check. Yeah, I was like, this deck is very chess-like in a way, but chess is a little bit different. All right, let's see what the chat thinks. All right, looks like we got 48% with B tier, 26% in A, and another 26% in C. So quite a wide spread here. And I don't know, honestly, like, I like it, it's pretty decent. I don't think it's C tier. I kind of want to put it in C tier, but I think that's just my inherent desire to, like, balance things out. Like, I feel like something belongs in C tier, but I'm not sure if it'll necessarily go there. And yeah, it's probably better than these two. Probably have to put it in, like, mid B tier. It's definitely not A tier. It's nothing, like, super special. It probably doesn't beat out that. But I think it still beats out those older ones just by virtue of being, like, a more interesting deck to watch than either of these two. Still pretty good, though. Alright, next up, we've got Ninja. Ooh, fancy.
Master Tier 1 is the highest rung on Master Duel's competitive ladder.
What? I didn't enter the scene in a weird and unique way? What's going on? This isn't how I normally do things. Shouldn't I be, like, coming in like a ninja or something?
There's not
what
easy.
The heck?
Only the strongest, most overpowered decks have the guts to make it to the top. But what if you don't play the strongest deck? What if you try to walk the path of the agile assassin and sneak your way to the top? How far could you get?
I really like that part. It was a fun little trick. This is Naruto references the episode. I think even the thumbnail just says, like, can I make it to Master? Believe it! A black t-shirt? Yeah. I decided I had to go all black to be like the ninja. Like, I had to look stealthy and stuff like that. Substitution jutsu. I forget, is there anything else that I do with this?
I'm Hardleg Joe, if you didn't know, and that's just the kind of thing I do.
Also, I'd replace the normal music with the Naruto music you could hear in the background. They're like, ha, doom, 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 cha.
This month we're playing ninjas, a deck that really...
Ooh, that was smooth.
Puts the B in subtlety. Despite being one of Yu-Gi-Oh's oldest archetypes, ninjas have a wide range of support to choose from, including a
very bouncy kind of movement there. I don't really do that a whole lot. I'm not sure if it looks well. It worked well for this.
A whole bunch of new cards that were just released in a structure deck. Which means not only are we playing it...
Yeah, I'm messing around. You could tell I figured out the morph function. I was like, ooh, what can I do with that? Some morphs are better than others. Misspelled subtlety. Did I? I think you spelled it subtly. Alright, let's look. Who edited this one? Ah, Mr. Metal! Mr. Metal, like, probably one of my favorite editors to work with. Very nice guy, very funny. He's currently working on the Masochist series. If you like all the funny jokes that are in that, you can thank Mr. Metal. I got him working there. He still does ladder climbs. In fact, I think he's doing the Ghoti one next month if he can. Good replacement for Civet. Although I'd still like to have Civet back at some point. 109 duels does not feel like much, although I do recall that this is a bit of a grindy deck. Maybe the meta was a little bit different, I don't remember. 56% win rate, so we're doing pretty good. I do remember the Ninja deck being a lot of fun. This is probably my favorite fusion deck if I had to pick one, although again, it uses so much stuff from the main deck. It is really interesting where it felt like in Arc 5, during that era, a fusion deck was a deck that fusion summons all the time. An Ixie deck was a deck that Ixie summons. And as we kind of went into the Rush era and got newer archetypes, they started focusing on well, yeah, this deck can make extra deck monsters, but the actual cards themselves are also good. You look at something like Cash Tiro, where it's yeah, they're a rank 7 Ixie deck, but Fenrir's just like a house on its own. Unicorn's just useful by itself. Birth can do a whole bunch of stuff. And that's kind of how this feels. Although you're still using some really old cards, this does have a very janky, mixed together feeling. Fun deck, lots of neat, that's good anti-meta in certain formats. I wonder how well it would do against Yubel, because you can attack directly while stopping them from attacking you directly. Yo, I'm just 3,000 subs away from hitting 60k! Can we get there in time? Yeah, I think we made it. Still haven't made it to 70,000, but we're getting there, Hardleg asking for the Trap Monster deck for December, like the patrons aren't going to give him the funny, hungry Burger.Dek. It was 2 months out, and somehow this person already knew what was going to happen. I was getting the Burger.Dek one way or another. We criticize Konami a lot, but releasing ninjas as a structure deck right when people are playing Cash Tiras is a big win. They can play in the opponent's turn, punish people shotgunning Maxi. People probably underestimate them because it's a structure deck, but this and Salamangrate are very competent. Yeah, the ninja structure deck, surprisingly good. The problem is, it's hard to recommend it for new players because ninjas is such a difficult deck to play. It's a lot of doing stuff on the opponent's turn and having to know when to interrupt your opponent because you're only going to get 1 or 2 shots at most. I would love to see a Hardleg Master Duel Masochist series. This whole comment section is just people predicting the future, just getting stuff there. Gamma Seal Ninja Turtle, yeah. Good times, good times. I'm not sure if it's the best or anything, but definitely pretty decent. Alright, looks like 43% are saying B tier. You got another 30 with C, another 26 with A. So again, kind of a wide spread. I think just based on how much I liked it, I'm going to put it in B tier, slightly above the Vaylantz. And with that, I think we're also going to move these down to C tier. You know, when we first started this, we were being pretty generous with oh yeah, these weren't bad episodes, these were fine, you know, we did some stuff, they got a lot of views. But as we go on and I see more and more of the modern episodes, and I remember how those duels went and how much fun I had with those, it really does kind of put these in perspective. Yeah, these are not bad. They met the basic standard, but they really didn't do anything special. I think put into the contrast of the entire year, I just got so much better by the end of the year that these were just sort of mediocre by comparison. Alright, Chad, are you ready to be scared?
Master 1 is the highest rung on Master Duel's competitive ladder, and getting there is not easy. Only the strongest, most vicious decks have what it takes to seize victory.
But what if you don't play the strongest decks? What? It's, not really high in terms of, editing, but I like the use of music. I got some extra music in there just to really set the tone. This is the Scareclaw ladder climb, by the way, if you didn't know. What if you just play a goofy little bobblehead and is scared pupper baloney? Again, just the sound effects. The cartoony little sound effects. And you can see it. This is, I bought this prop specifically to use in this episode. And then I used it for the intro, and I think I set it in the background. And I feel like bad for having spent like $20 on a Funko Pop that like I barely used at all.
What if you just play a goofy little bobblehead and is scared pupper baloney?
Boom, bow.
It centers around this beastly-looking fellow who forces...
I forgot about the scream. Again, just, you know, not the most elaborate editing or anything, but effective. They've got the speed and you can hear the scream in the background. Fun fact, that scream is actually Film Cow. Film Cow is he's another YouTuber famous for making Charlie the Unicorn, but I like a lot of his stuff, especially Shadowstone Park. Shout out, if you have some time, sit down for an hour, watch all of Shadowstone Park. That shit is just amazing. Like, highly underrated. Some of the best work of his career. Really kind of puts a lot of stuff into perspective. And he also released, like, several folders just worth of, like, Foley work that he did for various cartoons. Just, like, tons and tons of free sound effects. Most of it, I mean, you'll hear a lot of it in here. Anytime you hear like a metal ding or like a wood clunk or a lot of slapping sounds, those are all taken from his sound effect pack. And he included with that a bunch of him just like screaming in like the Charlie voice. And so if you listen, you can kind of hear it.
It's around this beastly-looking fellow.
I think I pitch shifted it a little bit higher.
I mean, you'll have to watch to find out.
I turned into the bobblehead. Yeah, just a couple. I wonder if you can see it. No, because how I did this is basically... Wow, I did a pretty good job of that. You can't even really see it. I don't have string or anything. I'm actually standing there holding it. And I just very carefully went in and cut around my hands and my fingers so that they weren't in the frame. And then I just drop it. Also, it's another one of these like small touches, but again, just something like if you're trying to learn editing yourself, or even if you're want to be a future editor or something, it's these small touches that make things look like a lot more professional that I never thought of when I was first editing. There's a lot of times earlier on where I'll bring a card in and like I'll have it fly in and then it'll just sit there. And just having these like come in and slowly continue to creep up the screen,
trap and a Kashtira hybrid
it makes them feel a lot more dynamic, even when I'm not like tapping them or whatever. Like, just if you could have like that slight movement, something comes in and it slowly fades, it just makes it look so much more professional. Let's see, another one edited by Subat. Let's go to the episode statistics.
Anyway, it's the end of...
Oh yeah, this is another one. We got to Master 1 with a win rate of 67%. I believe this still holds the record for the highest win rate in the entire series. I think Paleo might have tied it, but Scareclaw did surprisingly well. People came, like, I came into this thinking, like, oh, this will be a rogue deck. This will be like the time I played, like, Springans. This will be like Ghoti. Like, it'll do decent, but it won't do, like, amazingly. And it just kind of goes to show, I guess, that, like, the power of go second decks on Master Duel. If you can actually build one, it's a little bit difficult these days, but especially with, like, Triple Tactics Thrust, being able to search out something like Lightning Storm, like, having the ability to OTK going second just makes a deck insanely strong. And the fact that you can, like, we found a really good going first build too. I think that's really the trick, right? Is that you want a deck that can go first, that wants to try to go first and shut the opponent down. But if you don't, it can go second and OTK. It's better at OTKing. That's what this is, and it worked out really well. And people in chat saying 67% is crazy. Yeah, it is. But this is a good example of, like, a newer deck that performs really, really well and that I had fun playing, and the episode just did really poorly. Like, hasn't broken 100,000. And even before this was, like, the second or third worst performing episode for a long time. Like, I don't know why, but people just not interested in Scareclaw at the slightest. Let's look at the comments here real quick. This is underselling just how many Waynes Hardleg pulled in that stream. It was crazy. I don't remember what Wayne they're talking about. This was back when I still showed the pack openings in the episodes. I've watched a half dozen of your climbs. I realized I wasn't sub. I changed it. You've earned it, you beautiful soul. Oh, why, thank you. And I guess, you know, if you're watching this, if you made it this far and you're not subbed yet, you know, maybe consider subbing. It would be good. Oh, hey, Mr. Noba. Loved the Herald of Abyss on Max C. Was totally the winning move there. Oh, yeah, I remember that. We got to, like, a top deck war, and my opponent normal summoned Max C and was attacking me with it, and I had Herald of the Abyss, and I'm like, well, I could send it to the graveyard. It would cost me 2,000 life points, but if it stays out for 4 turns, that's the better move. And we did it, and I think it ended up being where, like, yeah, they didn't draw a monster for, like, 5 turns, and if I hadn't heralded it, I would have died. So yeah, good episode, didn't perform very well, maybe it didn't have very many memorable moments. Other than heralding the Max C, I don't think I remember hardly anything else from this. It's just a blur of shutting down people's links and attacking for all the damage. Okay, what do you think, chat? Alright, so I wasn't gonna rate this one especially high, but 55% of the chat here has put this in A tier, with another 30% putting it in B tier, hardly any C's or D's. Again, it did perform really well. We double-checked, it does have the highest win rate, even higher than Paleo, of any deck that I've ever played. So that's gotta count for something. You know, maybe a lot of people didn't click on that episode, but everyone who clicked on it liked it. I don't think I'm going to put it in A tier. It's only 50%. I don't feel it. But we can put it, like, high B tier. You know, put it around here. That seems like a fair compromise. I still feel like the Springans, maybe even the Ninja episode, was better. We'll put the Ninjas ahead of it, but, you know, 5th place isn't too bad. And that just leaves us with one more deck, one more thing to check out. So here we go. My patrons made me climb the ladder with Hungry Burger, which is usually saved for, like, the Christmas episode, which technically this was the December episode, even though I think it ended up coming out in January. Yeah, it came out in early January, but recorded in December. And also kind of a joke deck. I think I used it for this, Galaxy Eyes, and the Odd Eyes episode, which we'll have to wait till next year to go back to that, but I have a feeling that one's going to rate pretty lowly as well. But for now, let's look at the Nouvelle episode. This is another intro I'm very proud of, not because of the editing, but just because I managed to do some pretty good humor, I feel like.
How do I explain Master Duel to my American audience? Master Duel is like a delicious hamburger, and Master One is like 2 strips of crispy bacon. Everyone wants it, but very few people can afford it.
I'm not sure if that joke is still, like, relevant, or even if it made off of Twitter, but there used to be this thing where anytime someone would try to make an analogy to explain things to Americans, they'd be like, imagine it being like a burger, or imagine it being like fast food. There's this joke that we don't really understand anything unless you can put it in, like, McDonald's words. Which would have been funny enough, but then I managed to put this in here.
Actually, bacon's not that expensive. Getting Master One is like seeing a doctor. Only people who work really hard or have wealthy parents can afford it. But what if you aren't a metaphorical rich kid? What if you play a deck that's the equivalent of working fast food for minimum wage? Could you still obtain the bacon double healthcare burger?
Biting social commentary injected directly into the intro of a ladder climb. Also, I had a lot of fun, you know, being able to get the doctor and put the burger in the plate and the shadow and everything. It's a lot of, like, little details that probably don't show up, but I spent a lot of time on it.
Well, I'm Hardleg Joe, if you didn't know, and that's exactly what I aim to find out. You see, each month my patrons serve up a different deck, and I see how far I can push it up the Master Duel Ladder.
Again, just getting so much better. I know I'm probably going to look back in, like, a year and be like, I can't believe I was proud of this. But, like, you know, that plate ain't real. I feel like I did a pretty good job of, like, tracking it onto my hand as my hand's moving it around so that it feels kind of like I'm actually catching stuff and flipping it up.
Different deck, and I see how far I can push it up the Master Duel Ladder. This month, the Legos have given me Nouvelle, aka the Hungry Burger archetype.
I fall down a burger. This is the first time I bought a prop and just used it the whole episode. We did the whole thing in the chef hat, which was very fun. I actually got 2 chef hats. So we had a dark one, and then we switched to a light one halfway through because I couldn't decide which was better. And just a nice thing. I'm not sure if this happened earlier and I just didn't mention it, but I finally learned how to, like, trim my beard and make it look kind of nice. It's not nearly as scraggly. I also think I was fully bald by this point, so you don't see a bunch of hair, like, sticking out of the back. Just a lot more professional. Good lighting, nice clean lines and everything. And a very, very fun intro. How did this end up doing? I know it didn't, like, perform well because it's a ritual deck in Master Duel. Again, it's hard to do something where you have to special summon to do anything. Especially because this is one of those like anime feeling decks where it only works if your opponent doesn't know what the cards do. If they refuse to read your golden, it completely mops up in the lower tiers, but getting into higher tiers, not so much. Yeah, I made it as far as Diamond 2, you know, not quite into Master, so definitely not a great deck. 51% win rate, I mean, it's still above 50%. And this is another one where it's like, did the deck perform well? No, but I didn't remember that. I just remember a lot of funny stuff. I remember tributing people's entire fields. I remember them targeting my chefs and not being prepared. I remember top decking stuff, coming up with like a loop where I'm like being able to get back the counter trap every time and just having my opponent completely befuddled at the fact that they're losing to burgers somehow. Just a fun deck. I think I like summoned this fusion and like attacked into it when they had a bunch of monsters that would have killed me in the next turn. Just a really fun deck. Good ritual stuff. Probably, now that I'm thinking of it, like, having sat here and thought about, like, how did I feel about Libromancers versus how did I feel about Nouvelles? I think this is definitely a more favorite ritual deck. I do like a lot of ritual decks now that I'm thinking about it, because Megalith's pretty high up there as well. But I think this is probably higher than both Megalith and Libromancer, even if it's not very good. Fun casual deck, edited by Metal, he did a great job. Rumor has it that every fold in Hardleg's hat represents a different way to ritual a burger. This is the top comment, and I have no idea what this is supposed to mean. You know, usually I go through and, like, favorite almost all the comments, especially the top ones, but I just remember seeing that and being like, okay? It's not like a bit, it's not part of anything, it's just like, yeah, the hat folds are, I don't know, people like it. The name of the Nouvelle archetype is actually a subtle nod to the fact that if you let Konami cook, each card will have a novel's worth of text on it. That one deserves a little heart. We'll give that one a late heart. Thumbs up, too. From the opening, I can see the patrons have decided to continue the tradition of trolling Hardleg every December. Yeah, but it was a fun troll. I like to make the Christmas feast. This was a really fun episode, even if it didn't turn out all that strong. There's a thing about folds in a hat and ways to make an egg. Oh, okay, so there is a reference. I just didn't get it. And that leads us to the final poll, chat. Where do you rate the Nouvelle's episode? Is it all the way up in A tier? Is it down there in C tier? Does the low performance and the jankiness of the deck mean it belongs in D tier? Does the intro alone put it in S tier? Alright, looks like chat has 45% putting it in A tier. And then the other 27 in B, 27 in C. No one really thinks it's awful. And I think I'm going to have to agree with chat. I think it belongs in A tier. And I think it actually belongs higher than the Crystal Beast episode. The Crystal Beast episode, I still remember some frustrations, especially dealing with Tearlament. But the Nouvelle episode, again, I remember like losing in Nouvelle and still having a fun time. Nouvelle is just like a blast. Like, I'm sitting here watching the intro and I'm like, I kind of want to play Nouvelles again. I hope they have like a ritual festival soon. I mean, it'll probably be full of voiceless voice. Especially with, I got a friend trying to get back into Yu-Gi-Oh! And I've been trying to think of like, what's a deck I could play against them that is like competent, that can do stuff, but like won't be too overpowered. Nouvelle. Nouvelle's like a really good casual deck. Especially like, it'll teach my friend to read. You know, you will learn, do not target the nugget with the card effects or bad things will happen. Oh yeah, I didn't want to learn French for all the different monsters, so I gave them like different, there was the McDouble and the McChicken, and Nugget was the level 2. There's a nice times. And again, just that intro, being able to wear the chef hat, that really sort of started it off. It's really weird to think, yet again, that it wasn't until the end of year 2 that having a prop for each specific episode became part of the show. Because now it's like every time before an episode even starts, or even when the patrons are picking it, I'm like, well, one thing to keep in mind is what am I going to wear for this? I have to get a different hat, or I have to get like a stuffed animal, or some kind of prop that I can use for it. And yeah, that didn't really start until the end of 2023, like starting into this year. It really makes me wonder where things are going to go from here. I remember looking back the first year and kind of being impressed with how much I had changed and not thinking I had anywhere to go, and then going through this year and seeing how much it's evolved since then, and knowing already that like, yeah, the intros coming up are going to do even more. The decks are going to be even more exciting. We've got even longer things. It should be interesting. Either way, I think we're going to call it here. You know, I sat down to do this thinking we'd be able to run through it in like an hour, and it's been like 3 hours on stream. It's, you know, you can get lost stumbling down memory lane, but it's fun. It may be a little self-indulgent, but I enjoyed it. The patrons enjoyed it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you did, you know, like the video, let me know down in the comments what you liked, what you didn't like. We can maybe change up the format next year, assuming this video doesn't do awfully. For now, though, I'm going to go ahead and get headed out. Thanks, as always, for watching. Critter, want to say thanks as well? Gee, I wonder, when did you become part of the channel? Oh, yeah, you're on the thumbnail for the Ghoti episode. Okay, so he's been around here for a while. But yeah, until next time, good luck and have fun.